felt what anxiety was, right? I never knew what that was. You would hear people talk to you about it. You would hear people mention it. But if you never experienced it, you can't relate, right? It's just something that someone says.
100% get that, because I experienced that with my grandfather. When I lost my granddad about 4 years ago, I'd never experienced depression before in my life. And then it just suddenly hit me.
Yeah, you got to be able to relate to people. And, you know, if you haven't gone through something that someone's going through, you can't relate, unfortunately. It's not the other person's fault. You know, I've got a friend of mine who never, ever felt anxiety. And I used to tell him about what I was going through, and he couldn't relate to it. And then about 5 years later, he went scuba diving, and he was under the water, and he had just started. This is his first sort of like major dive. And for the first time in his life, he had an anxiety attack. He had never felt it. And so he had this anxiety attack where he just felt helpless, and he felt like he was going to die, and he couldn't breathe and all these things. And he had to get up, and he called me up afterwards. He said, man, all those times you mentioned about anxiety, I had no idea what you were talking about. I thought to myself, this guy, what's wrong with him? Get on with it. He said, I experienced it for the first time over the weekend, and OMG, it's horrible. So, you know, when I felt anxiety, it stemmed from, you know, I don't know where it came from, to tell you the truth. It was brought on, I think, maybe from just everything moving really fast in my life. At one moment I was a single guy living in Australia, and the next moment I was living with my, you know, a girl that I had just met. She was now pregnant. I had a baby on the way. I was living in a country where I knew no one. I was in a new job, away from my family. And I think just all of that triggered it. And anxiety runs in my family as well. There are a few members in my family that have it. And so I think it just sort of sprawled on then. And I manifested on it. And when you manifest on something, you make it bigger sometimes, right? And I think it started small, and it just kept getting bigger and bigger in my head. And there was a point where me going to do my radio show was really difficult. I manifested it so much. I created so much in my head that, am I going to be able to do my radio show? Maybe I won't be able to do my radio show anymore. Oh my gosh, what am I going to do? I've got a baby on the way. Am I going to be able to live my life? How am I going to support everyone? You have these thoughts, but they're just thoughts. You've just created them in your mind, but they become so real. So those moments when I was going to do the radio show, it was so built up with hours upon days of just thoughts, that it was, when I opened up that studio door, I was finding it difficult to do so. You know, but you get through it. You get through it, and you keep going, and you reach out for help, and you find different ways to handle and deal with it.
And you seem to be in a good place now. Your previous relationship or your previous marriages, you've divorced, and you've met a beautiful lady who you're engaged to be married to. What does being in a good relationship mean to you?
Yeah, listen, good relationships mean everything. Now, relationships are so difficult. I think it's something that we take for granted, is being in a good relationship.
Yeah.
You know, and what defines a good relationship? Well, who knows? I think you can only identify that when you're in that relationship. I think a lot of people are in relationships because it's the thing they have to do. You know, they have kids and they're just getting on with their lives every single day, and this is what we have to do. This is what I signed up for. Being in a good relationship, you want to make sure that there's love, respect, and I'm feeling this now with Brianna. We've been together for 6 years, and you know, it's give and take, it's love, it's respect, it's understanding, it's arguing, it's driving each other crazy. We work together so closely as well. She helps me run Fade Fit as a company. She's the brand manager and really the operations behind it and the backbone. So we're not only are we in a relationship together, we're together in a business as well. We have our hard times, but I know that, you know, sometimes you click with someone, you realize, okay, this is long term, and you know, inshallah it is. I'm happy, she's happy. We have our ups and downs like everyone else. It hasn't been easy for her as well. Obviously, you know, being a father to two gorgeous girls, you know, she's joined a man that already has children, who has an ex-wife. There's baggage, right? And that's not easy for anyone to be part of, right? Even though, I look at it from my end where I'm like, yes, but we're a happy family and we're amazing. And look at my daughters. For her, she loves them and loves me, but it's something that you've got to adapt to. So I try to put myself into her position, and she puts herself into my position as well, and has to understand how it all is. But you know, we're touch wood in a happy place, and you know, hopefully we get married soon. We were supposed to get married this year, but then the virus sort of just prolonged a few of that happening, and we're just waiting to see when it's going to happen.
You seem to have the awesome family. I was chatting to a friend of mine when we were cycling about a year ago. She's been married for years, and I was saying to her, how do you do it? What's your secret? And she was like, Zoe, she said, these days people just give in too easily. And I think that is so true. Like, we're always, especially I think when you're a little bit older and you've had previous relationships, you know, and it's just so easy to throw in the towel these days. I've experienced something similar myself, and it's just, you know, I think it's just so nice if you can meet someone and just have that commitment that no matter what life throws at you, you're in it together and you're just going to get through it together rather than kind of walk away. And I think as well, you know, these days, because marriage isn't, I know you guys are getting married, but for some people, marriage these days, it just isn't the done thing. You know, they like to be in like long-term relationships. And I just think having that ring on the finger, it's just a good commitment that you're not going to walk away that easy, that you're going to stick at it.
Yeah, totally. I agree. I mean, listen, marriage is not for everyone. You know, I've got a friend right now that lives in Australia that has been with his partner for 22 years and they have 3 children. They're not married. It's a formality that they don't want to go through. That may be just for themselves because they don't want to feel like they're locked down, whatever it is.
Maybe.
On paper, they're not married, but everything else they are. Even if they were to split, they would still have to go through a divorce. There would still be the legal increments of everything they have to go through, right? So I think people do give up. I think people do give up too easily. But you've got to understand, you've got to make sure that you're happy as well. You don't want to be in a relationship where you're not happy. But you can't be selfish about it. You've got to work out, is your partner giving, is your partner trying, he or she trying to deliver in this relationship? If it's a one-way system and you're delivering and you realize you're not getting anything back, well, you know, then there's a different story. Then you can probably say, you know what, I deserve someone to give me that love, that respect, that, you know, that companionship. That's what we want. We want to, but yes, giving up too easy, like when, oh yeah, we're arguing a bit and I don't know, I just don't find him or her attractive anymore. And, you know, it's just whatever. You know, sometimes you got to work through that, you know, and at the end of the day, when you get older, you know, when we're 70 and 80 years old, you want to be with your best friend. You know, you want to be with your best friend. You want to have that companionship. And I, you know, speak to a lot of people about going through relationship issues where I'm like, that honeymoon period that you were after will only last so long. Like, a relationship is never a honeymoon period forever, you know, and it does turn into reality. You become best friends, you know, and as long as you've got that best friends, but you've got that connection still and you find each other attractive, I think that's really important. And, you know, one of my friends who recently divorced, you know, I remember speaking to him about his relationship, and he was married with kids, and he goes, yeah, we don't ever fight. We don't fight. And I'm like, gosh, that's so cool that you don't fight. Like, and in my head, I remember telling my partner, going, they don't fight, right? And then about 1.5 years later, he tells me, yeah, we're getting a divorce. I was like, wow, how did that happen? Oh yeah, there's just no connection between us. There's just nothing there. And I'm like, well, maybe that's why they weren't fighting initially, because there was just nothing going on. There was no communication. That's why you didn't fight. Passionate about things, and you've got your own views on life, and you're discussing things all the time. You have arguments, and arguments are normal, but it's the way that you can end the argument that really makes the relationship, I feel, you know, and even the way that you argue, I think, is important. You know, there's a way of arguing. There's a way of having still somewhat class and respect for each other.